could listen to your stories for literally 3 more hours. I want to switch gears really quickly and then wrap it up with rapid fire questions. Is that cool?
Sure.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts because I've seen, I don't know if you've noticed it in the New York scene, of chefs prioritizing nutrition for themselves, even to the extent of restaurants working with nutritionists to design staff meals for the team. What is your take on that? And do you have any specific takeaways that a sous chef who's listening could potentially bring into their team to adjust what they eat as part of their day from what you've learned in nutrition?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess so I worked with a company that did a big Hamptons nutrition thing a few times, and I think there's 2 aspects, right? There's the execution of the reception. Okay. So if somebody's, and I've worked with alcoholics and drug addicts through Alcoholics Anonymous for a long time. You're not going to make somebody get sober who doesn't want to get sober, and you're not going to make somebody get healthy who doesn't want to get healthy. So totally. You kind of need both of those working in tandem. I think that I think that's fantastic if people are working with nutritionists and things. But the best way I can describe it is I can kind of sum it up pretty quickly and give you more of a holistic way of looking at things than a lot of people have looked at it. So weight gain is really, I don't really focus on vitamins, minerals, things like that. But most of us cooks, our diets are we get that. We're eating broccoli raw, we're eating Arctic char, we're trying caviar, we're eating foie gras. We're kind of, we have a rounded, I hope if you're a chef. You're not eating the same 6 things every day.
But there's also this element of you might eat 1 meal a day, so potentially optimize for that, that, just interesting, kitchen things.
Well, so one of the big deals is in solving, what I solve for mostly is weight, scale, weight, and body fat percentage.
Okay.
So one of the big enemies of weight loss is insulin. Bodybuilders will actually inject themselves with exogenous insulin because it just makes your body hoard everything and grow. And we all know that you shouldn't eat a big meal before bed. Why? Right? Why? So it all boils down to blood sugar. So let's say you have an ambient blood sugar of 65. If your blood sugar hits 120, your body will release insulin to prevent you from going into diabetic shock, right? And that's the issue with diabetics, right? They can't manage it, so they have to add insulin. So there's a few ways your body will release insulin, and there's a few ways we look at glycemic index and how it translates to blood sugar. So you have simple carbs, complex carbs, refined carbs. First and foremost, blood sugar is gasoline. It is the fuel your body wants to run on. Body fat is coal. It doesn't really want to run on it. It's hard for it, right? And a really good way to use it, a lot of people like doing ketosis. A lot of people like ketogenic diets. A lot of people like gluten-free diets. A lot of people like intermittent fasting. To be honest, having worked with, I've worked with so many fucking people. Often those things work because now that person is doing something, whereas previously they've done nothing.
Interesting.
Right? I do ketogenic. I was 50 pounds overweight. I did the ketogenic diet. I lost 30 pounds. Well, you might have lost 30 pounds doing intermittent fasting. You might have lost 30 pounds counting calories. Now you implemented a form of discipline, right? And that's not to knock anything. People should fucking try everything. But people often will experience success with one thing and treat it like a religion, right?
Right. But you also never know the alternative unless you're willing to put that weight back on and then do the,
Yeah, exactly. Who the fuck would do that? I wouldn't do that. That's crazy. Y'all can figure it out for yourselves. The ketogenic diet works for me, But,
yeah.
So really, what happens is there's 2 responses. One is you get your blood sugar about 80 or 90 or 100, right? Just under the threshold. And then let's say you drink a Coke or something like that. Your body knows that its blood sugar is about to rise, so it'll release insulin to store that. Sugars from dairy seem to be much more dramatic. So it's kind of like a power curve. 0 to 10 grams of sugar may influence your insulin response this much, right? Well, 20 to 30, it's not double, it's 2.25.
Yeah,
30 to 40 isn't, it's, so it gets exponentially more dramatic. And sugar from dairy seems to influence it faster. As far as simple carbs, naturally occurring liquid sugars, things like honey and maple syrup, things like that seem to be better than like simple syrup, things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
More refined, direct. And obviously, like, sugars naturally occurring in fruit are even better than that, depending. And then obviously the best are complex carbohydrates, zucchini, cauliflower, things like that, right? Nobody's shocked. So it's not bad to eat sugar or have something rich or if you're going to burn it off. And it's also not bad to eat at night if you're not spiking your blood sugar, right? Because when you enter REM sleep, your body will release insulin just the same as if you had a second meal to stabilize everything so you can get good rest. So, having a grilled skirt steak and arugula at midnight might be fine. It's not this, I'm not telling you eat spaghetti bolognese at 2 a.m. and expect to lose weight.
Right.
But as far as nutrition, I usually think of it as trying to minimize to a reasonable extent unnecessary carbs. I eat pasta, I like shit like that. And then generally I look at overall calories, and then I look at quality of calories. I'm a big believer in like really nice, if you can afford it, like venison as opposed to beef, guinea hen as opposed to chicken, maybe there's a company in Brooklyn called La Pera, and that's where like Danielle buys his birds, and he gets them from local. And like he'll call you, like you'll be like, "Hey, can I get 12 sassoon?" He'll be like, "Hold on," you'll hear him like, and he kills them to order, and you gotta wait 3 days, let them go through rigor mortis. But they're great birds, they're great birds. Sure. But this is kind of like a privilege to be able to eat this, So, but I think boneless, skinless chicken thighs, a big wedge of lemon, salt, and pepper, and sous vide at 140 degrees for 12 hours till it pulls, and a can of tomatoes, and make chicken tinga and put that over like a nice, lovingly made jasmine rice is a perfectly acceptable family meal, But like, throw 2 bags of carrots in with it, so that you're eating carrots braised in red sauce with onions and, more vegetables. But, as far as optimizing for like family meal, that's like a whole expertise that I don't have. Sure. I'm very fortunate in that I'm dealing with people with means who are, and a lot of like when you talk about like what struck my ear as far as family meal goes, you would hope that those people would be having diverse enough diets, but like coming into some of these people who have money and have tried everything to lose weight, these women who are like, just they've had 3 kids. They're 48 years old, and like they're like and they're as disciplined as the fucking fighters that I work for. I wouldn't dare put these bitches in a sauna. They'll ride that Aerodyne until they die. Whereas my fighter's like, I need air. She's like, Susie has a party next week. Like that bitch. Just like think of how much you hate that bitch. She's like, I hate that bitch. Like those women are tough. Those women are tough. And so like some of them, I've actually started having them get blood work done. Because they would eat like cauliflower rice, chicken breast every day, and they end up serious nutritional deficiencies because they're so disciplined.
Right.
They're just like boom, 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 boom. And so when I start working with somebody who's like, you can tell is not eating cupcakes in the middle of the night and they're not losing weight, getting that full panel hormonal and blood work done is very valuable. They pay for it. I just make the recommendation. But like they can, if you're one of those women or men, anybody, right? But if you're just like very disciplined and it's not working, it might not be working for like a bevy of reasons. And one could be like really like monoculture diets, right? Like you're eating, cauliflower as rice with a little bit of tomato, and like your morning every day is overnight oats made with, if you're going through that, like you can end up with serious deficiencies. Whereas like you would hope like a young cook who's like, oh, like let's go out to Bed-Stuy and do a tasting menu at this pop-up. Like you should be getting enough vitamin K, enough, you would hope
Sure.
As far as family meal, that's always like, I remember, it's kind of funny actually. I remember eating my family meal out of a pint container at like midnight and having a chef. He was like, "Can I see that?" And he threw it away. He's like, "That's gross." And I was like, so like, whoa, like, no, I mean, it was funny, right?
Yeah.
That's gross. And he goes, "That's time
there.
temperature abuse."
Yep.
Right? He's like, "That's time temperature abuse." That's gross. Right? But it's like, that was like, like, but so like eating out of a deli that one meal, like I can empathize with that. But yeah, I think a lot, the question comes to like ethics and morality, right? Like ethics is kind of wide across a group of people, and morality is deeply personal. You have to decide, is like serving food with no caloric budget whatsoever, is that moral? Is that ethical? Is it better if adding an extra 2 scoops of butter, if somebody's going to sit down, they're going to have 4 courses. If those 4 courses are 6,000 calories, but they taste better than if the 4 courses are 3,200 calories, are you okay doing that? Oh, it's a personal question. Like, I'm not, but, the brown butter, sage, give us some 65, 35 ground beef for the bolognese. Like, is that, I don't know, right? Like, that's a real question to ask yourself. And also, like, who are you? Are you a fucking martyr? Are you going to let your business go out of, like, do you know better what the client wants than you? Like, I'd be furious. But, like, I hate when I'm like, hey, I'll get a Diet Coke. Like, we don't serve soda or Diet beverages. I'm like, don't fucking judge me.
Yeah.
Like, I'll walk out of this restaurant. So, like, they're like, there's that balance. Like,
Sure.
Is it your place to tell a fat guy he can't order the ossobuco?
Yeah.
I don't know. What are you, his mom? I don't know. So that I kind of know. I can only speak to my own like business model, which is like as organic as possible. I don't use any dairy at all. I do a lot of like finishing with like Japanese sake for the acidity, and I cook vegetables like very lovingly one by one. I do a lot of game meat, no dairy, very little gluten if possible. And it's just because I love that, and I like doing big long tasting menus for people, and I like that somebody can eat a 9-course tasting menu and then feel like they can go for a jog. They're not like their body isn't pumping out insulin. They're not like, oh, I just need to go to bed and digest this. They feel like, oh wow, like I actually feel light and fresh, and but that's a choice I make. I get pissed when I feel like people judge me because I want to drink Diet Coke. So as I'm saying, like, do you, that's something for people to figure out. But yeah, I mean, definitely. I would be shocked if somebody was like, "Oh, I've been eating at nothing but Michelin recommended restaurants and the weight's just falling off." Like that's like even that it sounds preposterous, right?
Totally.
Because the food we're producing is like not healthy food. Yeah. I mean, it's healthy if you're on a fucking island. It's healthy if you need to get all your calories in one meal for the day.
Yeah.
But that's something, and it depends on how we're defining healthy. For me, I look at it in a very narrow scope of fucking Damian Maya is fighting somebody and he needs to weigh 170 pounds for 3 minutes. And if he doesn't, 20% of his money goes to his opponent. Like, okay, well, that is our goal. That's a very tightly focused goal, and
you have the resources to make it happen. Right? Like you're not constrained in this realm of, you have to use trim plus whatever's in the walk-in kind of.
Yeah, that's different. That's a whole nother animal when it comes to family.
Totally different.
That's so fun. Like that is.
It is.
Like when you make a good family meal, like that's like that moment when you're on a date with a girl and you realize she's gonna have sex with you. You're just like,
it's
like that moment when you're just like when you're on a date, and it's going well, and like you lean in for the kiss, they kiss you back. Like making an exceptional family meal might be one of the best feelings.
I got roasted at my last job because I got so into. I would mentor the 2 apprentices in the morning, and I would do all the butchery tasks in the AM. But I would also take on staff meal at the same time, and it got to a point where I was like, I would get roasted because he's like, I'm paying you way too much to make staff meal. But it was literally my favorite thing in the world, because my two favorite things I was so into was like playing around with staff meal style food and butchering, and so I got to do both at my job. So it was like chapter in my career where I was like, dream job. So completely agree. A well executed staff meal that you're happy with, and that like the team is happy with, and everyone's just like, I don't know, saying thank you to you that the one meal of the day was like truly delicious. It's special.
And I'm dating a girl now, and she has a 4.5-year-old, and the kid's just like, you know, you're talking to a guy who had a vasectomy at 30 who's like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
You know, so I still like, it's very confusing to me, this entire situation. Yeah. I'm just like, are you sure you guys like this? but like looking at it from a whole nother way that I never even anticipated. Like I made food for like clients' kids and stuff. But like the sense of responsibility in basically making all the food for a kid is like it's made me like, if you fuck up like a grown man's diet, there's kind of like a, wow, you should have Googled it too, you know. But like when you with like a 4.5-year-old, you're like, wait, hold on, let me see. Like, is this round enough? Are they getting there? You know, and like, you know, then it becomes like, it's fun too, because the kid like calls me her chef. You know, she's like, oh, my chef. You know, just like,
that's
awesome. And so like I have a little bit of credibility. She's like, you know, stuff that she kind of normally would probably tell people now too. But cooking for a kid in that regard has been like really mind blowing. It's been really, and like I had nieces and nephews, but as weird as it sounds, it feels a little different. But yeah, it's I think I do kind of understand your question now that I've digested a little, in the sense of like that sense of responsibility in cooking for a captive audience and giving them their one meal a day. It's like, yeah, I mean that's scary,
just like,
right? So
not just that, but like, what is the in 2028 the highest performing kitchen in the world, and they run their team where the entire staff is in ketosis? Because like they need to be performing at that level.
Dude, that'd be a pretty fucking low energy situation, man. That'd be I mean, you'd have to do like,
but what
slow
sort of
food?
What sort of augmented? No.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the extreme. But like, what is the example of this is a fully nutritionally optimized plan for the week?
I think you'd have to come up with a holistic approach, right? And I don't know if you could do that if you're just giving them one meal. So I think something like that, if you were to say, Steven, let's have a fun project, could you manage this? I would say they would have some sort of rotating menu where pieces would interlock, right? So you would do something like you do something fun, super easy, like a big batch overnight oats. And then you would do things. I mean, obviously, you know, this is don't put a budget to this. We're gonna assume
this is how you get there. Yeah, this is how you get there. You know, like,
yeah. So we do
accuracy,
like, you know,
speed
sometimes
kind of
we do that with. Yeah. You know? So you do like hemp seed in it. You know, you would use those overnight oats or whatever as a vehicle. You know, you do caramelized bananas with them, coconut shreds. You know, add some diversity there. And then another day, and so that would pair up with like a meat-heavy lunch. Then you'd have like a vegetarian day where you do like egg white omelets in the morning, or maybe you do, you know, 8 to 10. You do like 2 whole eggs to 8 egg whites to keep the cholesterol down. Make like frittata, something baked, something where you could have a comey, separate the two, and you're gonna be like, look, you're gonna drop this into a pan, pour the eggs over it, throw it in a 400-degree oven. Right, and then that day, since you've got, you know, the good fats from that, maybe you do like a Japanese soup for lunch, or actually, I like the idea of you do something like roast potatoes, meat, and then for dinner, like you could make like a really nice, very easy like Japanese soup, like a miso soup, and let people close out the night with like a nice little pint of warm beverage, and like rotate them in and out where you're fitting the pieces together. But you would actually have to sit down and solve for that. You'd actually have to look at the macros and say like when, and you could optimize it, right? Like there was a time in wrestling rooms where like nobody in my wrestling rooms didn't drink water. Then they realized if they let people drink water, they'll perform better. If we let them have high blood sugar, you'll have a better workout. If we open the windows and turn the fan on and play music, people will stay longer after class and they'll get more mat hours in. And in 2 years, they'll be better fighters than the gym across the street who run it like Marine Corps maniacs, right? Because the 42-year-old accountant is like, I don't want to train in a hot room with all the windows closed and everybody yelling at me. I'll just skip training today. Whereas the people who are smoking pot and have the windows open and the fan and the reggae blast. So like, maybe before service, you're doing higher sugar, rice, barley, these complex carbs, high energy meals, and then maybe even a dessert. Like, I don't know, jack that blood sugar up, give you something to burn off right before the crush. Like, if it was like, let's just do it in a simulation, like, you'd have pastry put their dessert out right before the crush, totally. Like little, the trimmings with the little frosting.
Yeah.
Pistachio ice cream from the Paco Jet that was left over.
So good.
So that would be how I would do it if it was like, look, you have free reign in a simulation. How do you squeeze the most performance and maintain people's attitudes, right? Yep. When you feel like shit, terrible, you very low frustration tolerance.
I got my wisdom teeth out on Friday, and today, a little bit yesterday, was like the first time that I had like what I'm calling real food, like not blended dairy, high in sugar, like yogurt, ice cream, pudding kind of diet. And it's true, like my attitude completely changed last night because it was like my food intake, and it was just like my response to being able to eat something that I was excited about. It's yeah,
for sure. And like, as I'm thinking about this, I think it would be like the perfect. It wouldn't be hard, you would, but to like close every night with like something like a nice, like a hot tomato soup with almost like something pretty bulletproof, like a duck confit on it, something like that could just be garnished at the last minute. Do some, you could do, in the summer, you could do like a cold asparagus puree with, but smoked salmon on top. I mean, but like that idea of piecing those together so that you're making sure you're hitting all your marks. And you could even, if you were really going crazy, you'd have like little test tube racks with juice shots in it, stuff like that. The idea would be every few hours, give them a shot of something complex to keep that blood sugar going, which is, fuel. It's energy. It's going to keep them cooking, keep the crash. I think, keep that crash from just being so devastating, right? Like there's a reason why at the end of the night you're just like, I just done. You beat me, you can scream at me, whatever. Like,
I mean, it's one of the reasons I enjoy these conversations with people that have your background too, because I'm through my experience, and I suppose it's just how I look at professionals in the industry. I look at chefs more through the lens of athletes and potentially musicians to a certain extent than I do like artists. And so I think that this idea of like taking care of your body, like looking at what you do as being a performer versus like the starving, laboring away artist type of thing is much more in line with kind of like how I view things.